Before we get started, please go over to Amazon.com and grab a copy of my book, Education and Justice. If you have an African-American son in public school, you need this book because I teach you the many ways that public schools mistreat African-American boys and what you can do to help your son. So go over there and get your copy immediately. Some people, mostly from other channels, had a little fit when they watched one of my recent videos where I said Donald Trump could unlawfully deport Black Americans. So in this video, I'm doubling down because I'm going to give you more truth that is, as always, backed by the law, backed by history, and in this case, even backed by Trump's own words. So let's get to work. So let me start by saying this. My videos are not about creating fear. Fear is counterproductive. Fear steals your power. I'm here to do three things: to energize you, to educate you, and to equip you so that you can fight back against white supremacy. Those are my reasons for spending my precious time to make these videos. But in order to do that, I have to tell you the truth. The truth. Remember, the Bible says the truth that you know shall set you free. Even when it makes you uncomfortable, you need to know the truth. There is so much disinformation circulating on social media. You need to know the truth. So when I said Trump could unlawfully deport Black Americans, again, people from other platforms showed up and lost their minds. They mocked me. They called me fear-mongering. They said all sorts of things. Then guess what happened? The very next day, Trump said that he and his administration were actively studying the ideal of deporting American citizens. He said it himself. So let's watch that clip.
But we also have a lot of bad people that have been here for a long time. People that whack people over the head with a baseball bat from behind when they're not looking and kill them. People that knife you when you're walking down the street. They're not new to our country. They're old to our country. Many of them were born in our country. I think we ought to get them the hell out of here, too. You want to know the truth. So maybe that'll be the next job that we'll work on together. But I think getting them out, we forget about them. We had some bad accidents in New York, and they're not accidents. They were done very much on purpose. People being pushed into a subway just before it arrives, going 40 miles an hour. And they're 10 feet away from where the thing is to get pushed right into the face of the subway train, get whacked and killed. And these are sick people. I'd like to get them out of here, too.
Now notice, he didn't say undocumented immigrants. He said American citizens. And to make it worse, he already said he would send so-called homegrown criminals to El Salvador. So what in the world are people thinking? The man has said several times on the record that he wants to deport American citizens. You heard that right. An American president is floating the ideal of sending U.S. citizens, including Black Americans, to foreign prisons. You all are still, some of you, defending him. And don't forget that executive order that he put out several months ago, where he said he's unleashing militarized cops, presumably in our neighborhoods, since he said last year that blacks commit most of the crime in this country. And I don't know if you've forgotten or whether you even knew, but in that executive order, he gave his administration 90 days to pull all that together. That 90 days is up the 28th of this month, the 28th of July. So let's see what all that results in. Now, let's talk about the Reconstruction amendments, where lots of confusion exists. I saw them in the comments yesterday. There's a dangerous myth that the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments are basically bulletproof, or they make us bulletproof. Some blacks say they were added because of black people, so we have special protection. That's false. Yes, they were added because of us, but they are not just for us. Second, white supremacists have been attacking the Reconstruction Amendments since day one, ever since they were added to the Constitution. The truth is, those amendments didn't even protect us for a 100-year period that we called Jim Crow. We were segregated, we were impoverished, we were being lynched, we couldn't vote. All of that occurred during Jim Crow, 100 years after the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments were added to the Constitution. From the 1870s to the 1960s. Again, we were still segregated, just being denied all of our constitutional rights. And those amendments couldn't protect us, and they really didn't gain any real teeth, any real power until the Civil Rights Movement, which occurred about a century after the amendments were ratified. And that's when for example, the Civil Rights Act of 64 gave some power, some strength to the 14th Amendment, to the 13th Amendment. And that's when the Voting Rights Act gave the 15th Amendment some teeth. But by listening to pro-black imposters and supporting and trusting Trump, you are allowing Trump and MAGA to undermine the amendments as they attack the civil rights legislation. I mean, you're literally helping them when you support Trump in any way. That is voting for him or not voting at all. So when you do that, when anyone does that, don't then come in my comments saying, they can't deport us. The Constitution protects us. They can't do that. They can't do this. You are allowing them. You are helping them to do this. And besides, they don't need our permission to violate the Constitution. They've done that before. As I told you, for 100 years during Jim Crow, they violated the Constitution. And they're doing it now. They're doing it as we speak. So those Reconstruction amendments, the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments, are extremely, extremely important for us. But by supporting, aiding, assisting Trump in any way, we are allowing him and MAGA and Project 2025, the GOP, to undermine those very Reconstruction amendments. Now, what I want to do is take you to an article that was written by law professor Cheryl Lynn Eiffel, a very, very smart attorney. She has been fighting this fight for many years, decades. And she recently wrote a very good article on the Reconstruction amendments. And you can trust that she's telling black people the truth and she knows what she's talking about. In fact, I recommend that you go over to Substack and you subscribe to her Substack account. She's releasing articles quite frequently. And go ahead too and become a paid subscriber. It'll be well worth your $2 or $3 or $4 or $5 per month. All right? So let's go to her article. And she calls it a court without the range, the Reconstruction Court 2.0. She says, and we're not going to read all of it, it's a long article. She says the conservative majority on the Supreme Court wrapped up the term with a decision that allowed the court to check off as complete several long-standing targets of the right-wing legal movement. That's what we're fighting, a right-wing legal movement. And what I'm trying to point out, one of the biggest things I'm trying to point out is when we support Trump, we are assisting this right-wing movement, which our ancestors fought during Jim Crow, during slavery. We're fighting those same descendants of those people. So don't assist them. Don't help them. In Trump v. Casa, the much anticipated decision in the case challenging the authority of a federal district court to issue a nationwide injunction against President Trump's attempt to limit by executive order the 14th Amendment guarantee of birthright citizenship to certain children born in the U.S. to non-citizen or permanent resident parents. Birthright citizenship is set forth in the very first sentence of the 14th Amendment. It was recognized as necessary of ensuring the citizenship of black people, both formerly enslaved and free, and to the project of eliminating a caste system in our country. Birthright citizenship set our nation on the path of building a multiracial democracy grounded in principles of equality and justice. Its framers fully understood that it would apply to the children of non-citizen immigrants, non-citizen migrants. As historian Martha Jones explained, birth was the great equalizer. But no matter, this case provided opportunities for the Supreme Court to advance an agenda that it has grown increasingly sloppy at hiding. By striking down nationwide injunctions, the court furthered its determination to free up this president to exercise virtually unlimited power. More than a unitary executive, this conservative court imagines an unfettered executive. Indeed, even old school unitary executive adherents must be taken aback by this majority's extension of the executive's power to allow the president, watch this, to flagrantly violate express guarantees of citizenship under the Constitution. Professor Eiffel says that they have allowed Trump to flagrantly violate express guarantees of citizenship under the Constitution. That means he can flagrantly violate our protections and rights under the 14th Amendment regarding citizenship, including deporting Black Americans. She goes on to say, I say this, President, because the court's hands-off approach to nationwide injunctions issued against Biden administration initiatives, student loan forgiveness, moratorium on new oil and gas leases, makes clear that it is only Republican presidents, or maybe only President Trump, who the conservative justices believe must free from the constraints of district court orders. And that's a great point, because the Republican Party used nationwide injunctions against Biden to stop him with his student loan forgiveness programs. And that same court said nothing. But now, nationwide injunctions are bad. Why are they bad now? Because they restrain their guy from pushing forward his agenda to protect white supremacy. The court's immunity decision 2 years ago, which essentially freed up President Trump to commit crimes while in office with lifetime criminal immunity for official acts, was an obvious tell is of a piece with this agenda. But at the center of the nesting doll of conservative agenda items this case presented was another tasty favorite, the opportunity to further weaken the guarantees of the 14th Amendment. And those of you who've been rocking with this channel for the last year, you know I have told you, I warned you that they're coming for the civil rights legislation. They're coming for the 14th Amendment. I told you that over and over repeatedly, that they were going to do this. And one of the biggest mistakes we made as a people was two mistakes: not voting in large numbers in 2016, because that, connect the dots, that allowed Trump to put 3 justices on the court. And it's those 3 justices that give them the majority to do everything Trump wants. This has been in the plans for a long time. And why is it that we have been bewitched such that we don't see it, and over 2 million of us vote for this? It is largely because of disinformation. Okay? Disinformation. So back to the article, she says this has been an evergreen project of conservative Supreme Court justices since 1873. That was right around the time the amendments were added to the Constitution, when the Supreme Court gutted the Privileges and Immunities Clause of the 14th Amendment, and an ongoing project of the broader conservative movement. Trump v. Casa, presented to the court by the Trump administration in the cloak of a nationwide injunction case, allowed a conservative majority to weaken the birthright citizenship clause and hide its hand. The applications do not raise, and thus we do not address the question whether the executive order violates the citizenship clause or nationality act of the 14th Amendment. All right. So, well, let's read this last paragraph. By acquiescing to the administration's context-free presentation of the nationwide injunction issue, the court facilitated the administration's, watch this, clear intention of gaming the system and bypassing the Constitution to violate countless individuals' constitutional rights, including Black Americans. The court was well aware of this likely consequence if the nationwide injunction were lifted. So, this has been their plan all along. And they have used a certain percentage, an increasing percentage of blacks, especially Black men, to help them undermine our community. So Professor Eiffel is not speculating. She's not talking out of both sides of her neck. She's a legal scholar. She's laying out how this Supreme Court has unleashed Trump, as I laid out in several videos that I released here recently. I mean, unleashed Trump to do serious damage to civil rights, due process, and birthright citizenship. So when I say that Trump can deport Black Americans, that's not to create fear. It is the legal analysis of not just me, but also Professor Eiffel, Justices Sotomayor and Jackson. These folks are experts. I mean, they're experts at what they do. And this is something that I've been doing. Studying and practicing the law 2 decades. But instead of listening to us and other experts, y'all choose to listen to non-lawyers, MAGA supporting content creators on TikTok and YouTube. Some of these people, in fact, most of them, know nothing about the law. Never sat in a law school class. Never passed the bar exam. Never took the LSAT. Never studied constitutional law. Never studied civil rights law. Never represented somebody in court. You wouldn't do that if you needed medical service. You wouldn't go to the jack leg and trust him or her with your medical situation. Stop doing that when it comes to Trump. Stop listening to these people who push white nationalist talking points, all while being dressed up like they're pro-black. I mean, these folks don't know what they're talking about. They don't know history. They don't know the law. And again, they're also helping Trump and MAGA by putting a lot of confusing, misleading disinformation on social media. So I'm not talking to their followers because their followers are incorrigible. You can't tell them anything. They don't know what they don't know. It is a bad situation to not know what you don't know. It's an even worse situation to be ignorant and not know that you're ignorant. So I'm not talking to them. I'm talking to you, those of you who have, again, been with this channel for the last year. I know you want the truth. I know you want the truth. You have helped this channel grow to what it is now. I know you want to protect your family. I know you want to defend your rights. I know that you want to do everything you can, not just to help the African American community, but for your own family, your own children, your own grandchildren. So please continue listening to those of us who know what time it is. So again, yes, unfortunately, Trump can unlawfully, unconstitutionally, in violation of the Constitution, deport American citizens. And you have heard him admit that they are studying it. Okay? He can't lawfully deport American citizens. It would be a violation of the law. But he can now do it with the blessing of the Supreme Court, who said that lower federal judges cannot issue nationwide injunctions to stop Trump unless there is this class action lawsuit that they can get certified. But that's hard to do, folks. It is really hard to do because oftentimes you got to go to Trump appointed judges for them to certify the class action lawsuit. And it takes time. And by then, the damage is done. Person's already deported or whatever other right is already violated. So think of the Supreme Court as being part of this conspiracy, as being part of this coalition of people and organization and groups to impose Project 2025 on the rest of us. Part of the conspiracy to roll back civil rights, to protect white supremacy. Because they just cut the legs out from under federal courts to do anything about all of this. Okay? So, there's a bigger issue here, though. And that is, I don't want you to get distracted about whether or not Trump can deport American citizens, including Black Americans. He can. And you see, he is studying the idea. So it's a real threat, but it's also a distraction. Because he doesn't need to deport millions of Black people to do damage to our community. In other words, most of you won't get deported. In fact, I don't know whether any African Americans will get deported. I just made the legal argument that he certainly can unlawfully deport Black Americans because of the holding in that Trump v. Casa case. Because his real goal is to dismantle civil rights quietly and sort of under the hood while you don't even notice. So don't get distracted. What he's trying to do, what they're trying to do is finish killing what's left of the Voting Rights Act. They're trying to kill the Civil Rights Act of 64. They're undermining the Fair Housing Act of 68. You see it. They're dismantling public education. They're disregarding due process. All of that is on the chopping block for the purpose of protecting white supremacy, white dominance, white power. This unequal wealth structure, the wealth gap, all of that. They're trying to protect that from an increasing number of minorities, many who are coming into the country as immigrants, and those of us who've been here. You can't see that? That's why it's so important for their strategy to deport people. And then who are they going to look at next? Us. Because this is about keeping America white. And they're already doing it. You can see it. But a whole lot of stuff is being done also behind the scene. Just remember, Trump, MAGA, the GOP, all of them are white supremacists, and many of them hate Black people. And all of them want to turn back the clock on everything we fought for. That's why they call it Make America Great Again. Just ask yourself, when has America ever been great for us? So what period are they talking about? Jim Crow? Slavery? So don't defend them. You got to stop defending them. You got to stop being confused. You got to stop being complicit. You say, well, hold on. 92% of us women, Black women, voted for Kamala, 80% of the men. I understand that. But that was roughly half of eligible voters. The rest stayed home. So we got to stop sitting out elections. Because that helps them win and put more judges on the courts, put more justices on the Supreme Court. We may have a Supreme Court selection during Trump over the next 3.5 years. They could end up with a 7-2 court. Don't help them take away our rights, your rights, from yourself, from your children, from your grandchildren. Don't help them in any way. Instead, here's what we need to do. First thing is start listening to real legal experts. Real legal experts. Why am I emphasizing legal so much? Because all that they're doing is the law. They're either passing laws or they're changing laws, modifying laws, or flat out ignoring laws, but it's rooted in the law. So you need to be getting accurate information from legal experts. So number one, listen to the right people. Yeah, we love the comedians, we love the athletes, the rappers, and all of that. I understand that's entertainment and so forth. But you need to hear the experts. Get that boring information. Get that information that you don't want to hear sometimes. That's still who you need to be listening to. What else? Mobilize for the 2026 midterms. If there are midterms, we need to be all up into that. You're talking about putting boots on the ground? That's when we really need to put them boots on the ground with those fans standing in those voting lines, getting registered and so forth, so that we can, if there is an election in 2026, take back some of this power. Also, educate yourself, your circle especially, with facts. Turn your girlfriend on, turn your homie on to these experts, to channels that dispense truth, information, knowledge, accurate stuff. And also challenge this disinformation. When you hear it, challenge it. Tell those folks, no, you're lying. And I want to say something. There has been a lady who has posted several times on the channel, thank you. She has said thank you so many times about the fact that our channel saved her son from becoming a part of MAGA. Madam, I have seen your post, and I'm telling you now, directly, through the camera, I am just so happy to hear that your son was saved from that cult. Because in many ways, that's what we're talking about. A cult. I'm so very happy for you and your family and your son to have stayed away from that MAGA stuff, including that black MAGA, especially. All right? So we're in a legal, a political, a spiritual, and a moral battle for our future. So you can't sit out elections anymore. You can't stay confused. You can't be scared because, again, fear, it zaps your energy, right? It messes with your mind. You got to resist that. You got to take the information, the truth that I'm sharing with you, and you got to let it energize you, right? You can, with information you don't want to hear, the reaction is either going to be fight or flight. You got to fight. Let that information cause you to fight, not get scared. I understand, but don't let fear control you. Let it cause you to register to vote. Let it cause you to challenge disinformation. Because we got to rise up and fight, folks. Now, you see, every day I'm doing my part. The question is, are you doing yours? I'm doing everything I can to school you, to educate you, to equip you, to energize you, but are you doing your part? That's the thing I want you to ask yourself. All right, in the meantime, I am Reverend and Civil Rights Attorney Augustus Corbett. As always, stay woke.